My hands wouldn't stop shaking the whole drive over. It was a Tuesday morning, gray, cold, the kind of November that makes everything feel heavier than it is, and I had my nephew's text on my phone screen, propped against the cup holder so I could glance at it, at red lights, even though I'd already memorized every word. Uncle, I haven't eaten since yesterday. Stepdad locked me in again. Please don't tell Mom I texted you, please just come. He's 9 years old. He knew not to call because a call makes noise. I'd gotten that text at 6:48 in the morning. I was already in my truck by 6:51. Let me back up, because you need to understand how I got here. Because 12 months ago, if you had told me that my sister's new husband would be the worst thing that ever happened to her son, I would have defended that man. I would have sat across from you and listed reasons why you were wrong. That's the part that keeps me up sometimes. Not what he did, but how long I believed he was good. My sister, I'll call her by what I always call her, just sis. She had Theo when she was 22. His dad was never in the picture, not really, not in any way that counted. Theo grew up knowing his dad's name and not much else. For a while it was just the two of them, and I was around as much as I could be. Sundays at her place, pick up basketball with Theo in the parking lot of her apartment complex when he was 6, 7, 8. He called me uncle before he could say my full name right. She met her husband, I'll call him what Theo calls him, just stepdad, because he never earned a name from me, at her job about 3 years ago. He came in for a consultation, asked for her card, texted her that same night. She was 30 at the time. He was 41. She told me about him over the phone and I could hear the smile in her voice, that specific kind of smile, that means someone has stopped being lonely, even just for a moment, and you don't want to take that from them. So I didn't say anything about the age gap. I didn't say anything about how fast things were moving. I met him twice before the wedding, and he was polite, asked me about my work, laughed at the right moments. Theo was quieter around him than I expected. But kids are sometimes. I told myself that. They got married in the spring. Theo was the ring bearer. In the photos he's smiling, but now when I look at those photos I notice where his hands are, fingers laced together in front of him, gripped tight. A 9-year-old shouldn't stand like that at a party. I noticed things, is what I'm telling you. I just kept explaining them away. The changes came slow. That's how it works, I think. If everything changed overnight, you'd see it. Instead, it's one thing a month, and each thing on its own seems small, and by the time you add them up, you're already a year in. First it was that sis stopped picking up on Sundays. Not every Sunday. Just sometimes. And when she did pick up, she sounded distracted, like she was listening to something else in the room while she talked to me. Then Theo stopped coming to family stuff. Thanksgiving at my folks' place? Sis said he had a cold. Christmas, they were doing a thing at stepdad's family's house, which made sense, newly married, splitting holidays. His birthday in February, they took him somewhere, just the three of them, a trip to a resort a few hours away. My mom asked to video call and sis said the reception was bad. I texted Theo directly sometimes. He'd text back short things. Good, school's fine, yeah, been busy. He used to send me memes, long voice messages complaining about his teacher. He used to text me about basketball scores at 11 o'clock at night because he knew I was always up. I told myself he was at that age, pulling inward, becoming a teenager in his head even though his body wasn't there yet. Then in September, my mom ran into one of the school moms at the grocery store, a woman whose kid was in Theo's class. And this woman said casually, in the middle of talking about something else entirely, "Oh, does Theo still go to Riverside? I haven't seen him at pickup in a while." My mom called me about it that same evening. We both sat with it for a moment. "He's probably just taking a different bus," I said. My mom said, which is her way of saying, "I don't think so, but I'm not going to fight you about it tonight." I drove to their house on a Saturday in October. Unannounced. I know how that sounds, but I'd texted sis twice that week asking if I could come by and she hadn't responded. I figured showing up was better than disappearing. Stepdad answered the door. He was pleasant, he always was. Invited me in, offered me a drink, sat across from me in the living room like we were doing a very normal visit. Sis came downstairs a few minutes later. She looked thin. Not sick. Thin exactly, but careful thin, like she was taking up less space on purpose. I asked where Theo was. Upstairs, sis said. He's been under the weather. Can I go say hi? There was a pause, maybe 2 seconds. Stepdad said, "He's resting, man. You know how kids are when they're sick. Don't want to wake him up." I said, "Okay." I stayed for another 20 minutes and drank the coffee and talked about nothing. And the whole time I was watching my sister's hands, which were still in her lap, fingers laced together, gripped tight. When I left, I sat in my truck in their driveway for a moment. I thought about going back to the door. I thought about it seriously. Then I told myself I was being paranoid, that I didn't have anything concrete, that if I pushed too hard I'd just create tension and make it harder to stay close to them. I drove home. That's the decision I replay the most. The text came on a Tuesday in November, like I said. 6:48 a.m. I didn't call ahead, I didn't text sis, I just drove. I parked down the block, I don't know why, instinct maybe, and walked up to the house. The lights were on downstairs. I rang the bell, and stepdad answered again, but this time he wasn't pleasant. He was still in his work clothes from the day before, collar open, and something in his face shifted when he saw me. He here? I said. Who, Theo? Yeah, I want to see him. He's sleeping, it's early, maybe you could. I said his name. And stepdad's name. I said it once, flat, and then I said, I got a text from him this morning. I'm not leaving without seeing him. You can call the police if you want. I'll wait right here. Something moved behind his eyes, a calculation. Then he stepped back and let me in. He took me upstairs to the second door on the left, the one that used to be the guest room. He knocked twice and opened it. Theo was sitting on the floor next to the bed, with a blanket over his shoulders and his back against the wall. He looked up when I came in and his face did something. Crumpled, then went still again, like he'd learned not to show too much at once. The room smelled stale. There was no food. There was a glass of water on the floor next to him that was almost empty. I crossed the room and crouched down in front of him. I put my hand on his shoulder. Hey buddy, I said. My voice came out steadier than I felt. How long have you been in here? Since yesterday morning, he said quietly. I looked at his face, dark circles, dry lips. That careful stillness that no 9-year-old should have. I stood up, I turned around, stepdad was still in the doorway, and I want to be honest about what I felt in that moment. Because I think you deserve that honesty. I felt something very cold and very clear move through me. Not rage exactly. Something that happened after rage, when rage runs out and what's left is just certainty. I said, get out of the doorway. He said, now look, this isn't what it. Get out of the doorway. He moved. I picked Theo up. He's small for 9, he's always been small, and carried him downstairs. He put his face against my shoulder and didn't say anything. I grabbed his backpack from the hook by the front door and I walked out. Sis was standing in the kitchen doorway. She'd come downstairs while I was up with Theo. She had a coffee mug in her hands and she was watching me with an expression I couldn't read. Not surprise exactly. More like someone watching something they knew was coming and didn't know how to stop. Come with me, I said. She didn't move. Sis, come with me right now. She looked at stepdad, then back at me. I'll call you later, she said. I need to talk to him first. I can't explain what it felt like to walk out that door without her. I've talked to people about it. There's no version of that sentence that captures it, so I'll just tell you what I did. I buckled Theo into the passenger seat, drove 3 blocks away, and sat there for a minute with my hands on the wheel before I took my phone out and called my mom. I have him, I said when she picked up. She exhaled so hard I could hear it. Bring him here, she said. Right now. Bring him here. My mom fed him first, that's who she is. He sat at her kitchen table and ate 2 bowls of oatmeal and half a banana and drank an entire glass of orange juice before he said much of anything. My mom sat across from him and talked about nothing in particular. The neighbor's dog, a show she'd been watching, the leaves in the backyard she kept meaning to rake. Just steady, ordinary noise. A normal morning. I sat at the counter and watched him eat and tried to stay calm. After breakfast, I called my cousin who works for family services. Not officially, she wasn't handling the case, but she told me what I needed to do and in what order. Document everything. Medical evaluation as soon as possible. File a report. Do not take him back to that house. I took Theo to the pediatric urgent care that afternoon. The doctor noted the signs: weight loss, mild dehydration, emotional withdrawal, bruising on his upper arms that Theo said came from being grabbed. The doctor filed the report herself. Mandatory reporter, she said. And the way she said it was quiet and professional, but her jaw was tight. That's one thing the video I was thinking of. The story I'd heard that was similar to this. Got wrong about how schools and doctors work. They're supposed to report. This doctor did. I've since learned that Theo's school had noticed things too. His lunch account had been going untouched. His teacher had flagged his withdrawn behavior twice. But the flags had gotten lost in paperwork. The system caught it eventually. It should have caught it sooner. That part is true, and I'm not going to pretend otherwise. The weeks that followed were some of the most exhausting of my life. I'll give you the shape of them without every detail, because some of it is still working its way through the system, and I've been asked to be careful about what I say publicly. Stepdad was removed from the home. There's an ongoing investigation. I'm not going to tell you he was arrested and convicted because that process isn't finished. But I will tell you that the documentation, the medical records, the school records, the texts Theo sent me, the testimony from neighbors who'd heard things, built a picture that I'm told is significant. Significant enough that his attorney made a call suggesting Sis might want to cooperate with investigators rather than protect him. She cooperated. I want to be fair about my sister because she's my sister and I know how it works. I've read enough, talked to enough people, to understand that what happened to her was also a kind of harm. Coercive control. Isolation dressed up as devotion. She's in therapy now. She cried on my mom's couch for 3 hours the night she finally came over. And my mom held her and didn't say a word about what she should have done differently, because that wasn't what that night was for. But I will also be honest, it's not the same between us. Not yet, maybe not ever entirely. I look at Theo's arms, and then I look at my sister, and I feel two things at the same time that don't resolve neatly. And I've decided that's okay. I don't have to resolve them. I just have to keep showing up. Theo is staying with my parents right now. His room has a window that faces the backyard, and he asked my mom if he could put up a bird feeder, which she immediately bought and had him hang himself because she is smarter about these things than anyone I know. He's back at school? Riverside? Yes, same school, because his teacher asked to have him specifically and Theo said he wanted to go back to the same class. His grades aren't great yet, but his teacher says he's talking more. Last week she texted my mom a picture of him laughing at something another kid said. I saved that picture. I go over for dinner on Sundays now. Every Sunday, without exception. Last week, Theo beat me 3 games in a row at the card game he's been obsessed with lately, and did not let me forget it. He texted me about it the next day too, a long voice message, rambling and laughing, and I listened to the whole thing twice before I went to sleep. He called me uncle before he could say my name right. I didn't realize until recently that I'd been taking that for granted, that there would always be time, always be Sundays, always be another pickup game in a parking lot. I won't take it for granted again. The legal process isn't finished. I won't pretend there's a clean ending tied up neatly with a sentence. But I'll tell you what is finished. Theo hasn't slept in that room again. He hasn't gone back to that house. He ate breakfast with my mom this morning. I know because she sent me a picture of his empty bowl, which is her version of a text message. And tonight we're going to watch the game together and argue about calls. And he's going to stay up 45 minutes past when he should, and I'm going to let him. That's what finished looks like for now. That's enough.